Come on in, you guys. I've got another walk and talk for you guys here today. Welcome, welcome. Happy Saturday to you. Hope you're having a great start to your weekend. I live for my weekends. I love it. The weekends let me kind of step back, reflect on the week that just happened, start to prepare for the next week. And I love my weekends, guys. I still work. Obviously, I'm talking to you guys, but this isn't work. I get to just jibber jabber with you guys and your friends. So we're going to have a 45 minute to 60 minute talk with friends here today. And I hope you're going to enjoy the topic I have chosen for you here today. And we'll get to that in a minute. But hey, how are you? Let's see who all's here. Bulletproof's here. Yeah, you betcha. Oh, I love that name. That is great. Sharon is here. She says, yay. Clemirin7 is here. Bulletproof Coconut. Woo! Yeah, I have missed doing the walk-in talks on a regular basis. I like this idea of doing them on the weekend. During the week, you guys have no idea how crazy busy it is for me during the week because I do all my podcasts that air. Then I'm also recording podcasts. Then I'm also doing the ice bath videos at 5 o'clock every day. So fitting in a walk and talk more than once a week, a little hard in my schedule. So thank you for giving me that grace. Kira is here. Suzanne's here. Pugs is here. Linda, JEC, MCK is here. Good morning. Cape Digger's here. Sabrina's here. Clemirin says, happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to you. I enjoy my Saturdays. And now that it's getting warmer, today it's like in the upper 50s currently. It got up to like 83 degrees when I did my ice bath the other day. I was like, whoa. It's definitely taking a turn from winter to spring suddenly. Welcome to the South. We don't really have many changes that happen gradually. They're abrupt when we change seasons. Go Jimmy, never stop. Susie's here. Pug says hi there. Hello. Martican is here. Dan is here. All right, guys, let's get into this topic today. I feel like so many people are walking around in this world and they feel 100% worthless. They feel devalued. They feel like nobody really cares about them. Their contributions to society are meaningless. Why do they even exist? And like the last 2 years, especially with us being detached from one another in a lot of ways and life being in a bit of disarray, this feeling of devalued worthlessness has come on super duper strong for people. Isolation plays such a strong role in your mental health, both negatively and positively. When you need time away, it's a positive thing. But for most people, most of us, normies, we need connection with people. We need people reinforcing that we are valuable, that we do have worth. It's why the friends in my life and the people I care about, and even you guys, I encourage you all the time with telling you uplifting things to tell you your worth in society, to give you that value that maybe you yourself don't see. So, what I want to talk about here today is feeling worthy when you feel worthless. And I got to ask a hard question up front because I can't talk about this subject unless I know whom I'm talking to. So raise your hand. Give me some message down there. If you feel worthless. And you might be like, well, I have moments of that, but it's not so bad. No, if you feel it at all, if you feel any inadequacy, any I'm not equipped, I'm not worth, you fill in the blank. If you have any of those kind of feelings, I want to hear from you. Tell me why you feel that way. And of course, there's so many reasons why we feel that way. and you guys know me, that you listen to my podcast with Brittany called the One Step Deeper podcast. We talk about this all the time, that childhood trauma plays a major role in who you turn out to be as an adult. And that is a big reason why people feel worthless today. I can tell you guys that I was directly told by my own father in my teenage years, very impressionable, right before I got out of the house years, that I was worthless, I was useless, no girl will ever want you, you're a piece of shit, why aren't you dead? And so when you hear those kinds of things at an impressionable age, it's very difficult when people now start trying to say, oh, but you have value. You don't feel valued. You don't feel cared about. You don't feel like you matter. Can I get a witness, anyone? Because when you experience those kinds of things, that is your worldview. People are like, well, you get out of the house, you know better then. No, you get out of the house and then you have to start to pick up the pieces of the brokenness that happened in your effed up childhood. And it took a long time for me. I'm in a good place today, by the way. Very good place today. But it took decades of working on it and chipping away at it. And especially the last few years, being able to really kind of come into my own of who I am and being confident in that, and knowing, guys, this is important, knowing your own worth. I know my worth in this world. I know my contributions and my value to society. And nobody can take that away from me. Nobody. I know what I've been able to do to leave a dent in this world. As small as it may be, I've left a dent. And all of you have too, in your own ways. And it's what I want this to be about today, is think about all the ways. And I know how you feel in your head is swimming with all these thoughts of negating what you're about to try to focus on. But I want you to put those thoughts to the side for a moment. Focus in on, what are those good things? Are you a parent? Did you have kids? Guess what? You have worth in their life. And you have lots of things going well for you in your life because of that. You have to look at it that way. Have you been able to start your own business and be successful? You've added value. Employed people. Have you put in investment in yourself, in like relationships, in building bonds with other people? You have value. You are worthy. These are just a few examples, but I want you to dig even deeper, guys, of all the ways that you have value and you have worth. So that when you get in those moments where you feel worthless, you're reminded of the reality. I think those thoughts of feeling worthless, they're nothing more than your brain superseding reality. Because the reality is, we're all worthy. We all have value. We all matter. And the sooner you understand that, and the sooner you realize your role in the world, and here's what happens. When you realize you matter, you realize you have value, that, you guys, is when you find your purpose in life. Somebody wrote me a DM on, Facebook the other day. And he said, so have you found your purpose in life, Jimmy? I can help you with that if you need to find your purpose. And most people don't have their purpose, so let me help you. And I was like, thanks, bruh. I got my purpose. I'm living my purpose. And then he had the audacity to write me back, well, I could still help you even though you think you know your purpose. I'm always kind, but I'm sometimes snarky. And I was like, bruh, I'm good. And it's unfortunate that people just cold do you that. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. The point is, I know who I am. I know what I have to offer. I know what I've accomplished and been able to do. I know my heart for people, genuinely caring about people. I know my worth. But do you? Do you know your worth? Do you know the value you add to this world? And it's okay to be honest and say, no, Jimmy, I feel worthless. I get that, by the way. I understand that. Some of that can be brought out in therapy. If you talk to a therapist, sometimes you just need to be reminded and told from a third party how valuable you are. Because let's face it, guys, we are our own worst critic. We are our own worst enemy when it comes to the mental health side of things. And when you feel worthless about yourself, that says more about what's happening here than what's happening out here. Which is why I'm always trying to get you guys to look inwardly. That's why I do a podcast with Brittany about going one step deeper internally. Because you start changing those things internally, and suddenly that feeling of being worthless turns to, damn, look how awesome this life I have is. Look what I'm able to do. And look, if you're not doing things that are expressing that worthiness, this is your wake-up call. Go and take it and run with it. Guys, that's all I did. You guys are very kind to me. You're always talking about how my work influences you positively. And I've written some very famous books in the nutritional health world. And I do a lot of things that people enjoy. Podcasts, book writing, walk and talks, all these things. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens because I know my worth. And I know my value. And I'm able to impart that value onto other people. And it just breaks my heart. It makes me sad when people hold back out of this mistaken notion that they're worthless. And I certainly hope, whether you're watching this live or on the replay, that if you feel worthless today, that you dig down deep. Surely there are some things that even you in that mindset of worthlessness can admit make you worthy, make you valued. And at the end of the day, if nobody else values you and sees your worth, you need to value you and see your own worth. Can I tell you how infectious that is? When you start valuing yourself, when you start putting that worthiness internally on your heart and your mind and every fiber of your being, guys, you become infectious to other people. I can tell you that firsthand, that when I started working on me and becoming a better me and stop feeling like I don't have value and that I don't have purpose, and I started living in my purpose, living in my worthiness and my value, other people started to notice that. And then they're like, hey, how'd you do that? What is that? Tell me more. And I give them the same message I'm giving you guys today. Step into who you are. Stop holding back. Stop letting whatever whispers in your ear that you're hearing that tell you that you have no worth at all. Do you guys feel worthless? If you're being honest, and I would hope you would be, I'm always honest with you guys. If you're being honest, worthlessness hits every one of us. Every single person on the planet has felt worthless at some point. And I'm arguing that it's a mind game, that we're never actually worthless. But we convince ourselves, we're convinced by others. In my case, my abusive father, who told me I was worthless, said it outright. 15, 16 years old, tell a kid 15, 16-year-old that they're completely worthless and they should just die already. That will work on you. And I know better now. And I know I have great worth today. All right, guys, I definitely want to interact with you on this one. So I'm going to scroll back to the top, talk to you, but please leave me some comments. What do you think about this? Do you feel worthless? How do you make yourself feel worthy? And if you don't feel worthless, why not? What are the strategies that you employ that remind you, because you have to be reminded consistently, that remind you of what your value and your worth is? I see lots of my friends are on here out there doing great work. I see my friend Molly's on here. She talks a lot about sleep and biohacking in her work. She's quite evidently worth more than the worthlessness that some people would think of themselves. So Molly's doing great work. I see my friend Brittany is on here. She's doing a lot of personal development and growth in her own growth journey. I could go down the list, and sorry if I'm missing people. I'm going to go all the way back to the top. Bulletproof says, I often feel worthless when my, quote, friends, end quote, left me over nothing. Oh, yeah. That's a big one. It was right at 2.5 years ago that I made the decision that I wanted to leave my wife. And it was at that moment that I realized what was real and what wasn't real when it came to the friend thing. And look, I had no maliciousness in leaving. I just didn't want to be with her anymore. And I proceeded to lose 90% of who I thought were friends. And the ones who stayed behind became super valuable to me. And then the new ones that came along the way, again, super valuable. I'm very picky about who I allow as my friend now, because I've been betrayed by people who I now know used me. Used my status, used my money, used my connection to other people, and good riddance. But yes, that can definitely chip away at your worth. And it even happened with my abuser, my dad. Right at about 2 years ago, I had to cut him off from talking to him and really having any communication with him at all. He denied the abuse that he did to me when I was a teenager and was vehement he didn't do all those things in talking to my mom. And so, like, look, at least admit you did it. Maybe you have regret and he doesn't know how to express it, but I refuse to let that loss of a relationship, though, with him make me feel worthless. He already made me feel worthless for a good chunk of my life. Letting him go was me saying, no, I'm worthy. I do have value. You may not have ever seen it, and he may never see it before he dies, but that's on him. But I feel you on that. The loss of people that you thought were close, and then you see their true colors. Not very fun. Not very fun at all. Hello, Dan. And Jeff is here. Mimi, Christian, Jackie. Brittany says, us abnormies love the alone time, but even I have missed people well at times. Yes. Yeah, I mentioned earlier, normal people like to be around other people, and so the last couple of years has been kind of rough. I said it that way just for you, by the way, Brittany. I knew you were watching, so I was like, let's say normies, and watch her make a snarky comment. It worked. CP Hillings here. Lakers is here. Bulletproof says, yeah, you went through hell in your childhood. Yeah, I did. I had some pretty tense moments. And every time I harken back to that time, I'm just grateful that he wasn't an alcoholic. I'm grateful that there were things that could have made it a lot worse. Now, that doesn't diminish what did happen. Not saying that what did happen, it was horrendous. But it could have been worse. And so it helps me have the perspective even today of, as bad as it was, I'm lucky he didn't kill me. Especially if he felt like I was worthless. That was always in the back of my mind, even then, was, if he thinks I'm worthless, why didn't he kill me? If he thinks that I'm not worthy, then why didn't he do something about that? Sorry, I heard people behind me and I was like, are they coming up on me? RD8 Scrabbler's here, Geisha's here, Thomas, Diesel. Feel free to chime in on this topic, by the way, guys. KK Brink is here. Jack for Mom is here. Eugene. Bulletproof says, all the DMs you get are something else. Yes, I do post them on my stories from time to time. And those are all people that think I'm worthless, apparently. It is what it is, as they say. Hate that phrase, but it's sort of apropos here. Locon is here, Del Norte's here, Molly's here, Shauna's here, Texas Livingstone, David. I'm trying to see if anybody's got any more comments. Sharon has a comment. What an awesome topic to cover today. This touches at the very core of our being. Yes. And Sharon, look, you're at an age where most of your peers in your age group, they are way down the rabbit hole of worthlessness. And if they haven't worked on it at this point in their life, they feel like they're too far gone. You can find your value and worth at any age. And I hate that people so quickly give up on themselves. A woman who is past childbearing age and she's not married yet suddenly thinks she's worthless. Well, no man's going to want an old lady, and I won't have a kid in this world, so what am I without those things? So that's one. But then that even goes the opposite way. There are some people that so put their worth in other people, like spouses, in their kids, that if for some reason those things were taken away from them, either through divorce or through death, they suddenly lose their value. We need to learn to find the value in ourselves. And the value is in each and every one of us individually, not in who we're associated with, not in anybody but you. And that's a core essential theme of what I'm communicating here today is, if you feel worthless, it's really you that has put that thought in you. Yes, other people may have sparked the fire of the thought, but you're the one that still stokes the flames and still puts the wood on the fire of that feeling worthless. Let today be the start of being worthy. I would even encourage you, when you go into the bathroom in the mornings and you look in the mirror at that beautiful human being looking right back at you, speak aloud. You are worthy. You have value. You are loved. I know for some people that kind of thing is a little bit out there. But guys, self-affirmations, they work. They put your mind in the right place. Because you can't say those things about yourself and then feel worthless. And yes, it'll take some practice. It'll take some time. You can't just do it one time and go, well, I told you were worthy. Why don't you feel worthy already? Do it today. Do it again later on when you go to the bathroom. Do it tomorrow. Do it every day, multiple times a day, over and over and over and over and over. And before long, you will discover that you're pretty damn worthy and that you're not worthless. And the dirty little secret is, you never were. You just convinced yourself that you were. And that's the truest travesty in all of it. Self-inflicted unworthiness. That's hard to hear for some people because they've actually so identified in feeling worthless. Let's dig into that a second. See, Sharon, you sparked all kind of new thoughts for me. People identify in their worthlessness. It's almost as if being worthless is their worth in the world. Ponder that for a second. The worthlessness that they feel is the value they think they have to offer the world. And this is why you see people feel sad and look sad and act out on that sadness with anger and go be a Karen in a store, for example. Every time I look at a Karen, I always think, wow, who didn't value that precious soul? What had to happen to that person that they felt like their behavior now is appropriate? That's the way my brain and heart works with people like that. Yes, it's funny watching Karens do what they do. But really, at the end of the day, Karens are crying out for help. They're like, see me. I don't feel loved. I don't feel cared about. I don't feel valued. Somebody see worth in me. And yes, it's packaged up in a whole lot of nonsense and a whole lot of antics that are crazy. But at the end of the day, I think they're just screaming, please love me. Please care about me. Please find value in who I am. Make me feel worthy. Changes the Karen situation, doesn't it? When you stop and think of it that way. Ink on Ironson says, I live with an abusive father. At 27, I feel paralyzed. Any tips for snapping out of the situation? I mean, the best I can say is try to remove yourself from that situation. If you can get out of the house and go live on your own, you have to protect your own mental well-being. I don't know what abusive means. If he's physically abusive, you're an adult, he's an adult. That's called battery. And you could have him arrested. I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying it's a different thing now that you're an adult. But I'd say get out of that house. Like, that was the thing I did to escape my abuser. I graduated high school. I had just turned 17 a few months earlier. And then I graduated high school. And in less than a week, I was able to get out of the house and go to college. I wasn't even accepted to that college. I had to get away from the abuse. And thankfully I was accepted into the university once they figured out academically I had qualified. But get away as soon as possible. You have to protect yourself. And I wish you well with that. Bulletproof says, I remind myself that I'm a good person and I deserve good people in my life. Yes, I shouldn't settle or miss those who drop me. No. Look, I think about those people who I thought were friends and now they don't even want anything to do with me. And I took that hard at first. Of course, everybody takes that hard because on your end of things, you had a certain bond with them that obviously on their end of things, they did not. Now, I will credit, there are, and I can probably count them on one, maybe two hands, up to 5 to 10 people who are friends with both me and my ex-wife. And I give credit to them because in a divorce situation, people always pick sides. And usually it's the girl. And for the most part, that was true in my case. But for these 5 or 10 so people, they're friends with both of us. And some of them came to my birthday party last week, and they went to visit my ex-wife. So it's great, the people that can do that, but they are very, very rare. Very rare. Pug says, I don't feel worthless because I've made changes to improve myself and I'm proud of myself. That's great. And thank you for articulating that. Yes. Work on yourself. As Brittany and I talk about on One Step Deeper all the time, personal development, personal growth, letting your mind get away from those negative thoughts of worthlessness and realizing who you are. And always working on who you are. If there's parts of your life that you're not proud of, go make them better. And then be proud of the changes that you made, just as you articulated. I love that. That's beautifully said. Kira says, feelings of worthlessness just means you're underappreciated and need to leave. Talking about in the context of a relationship. Go deprive those people of your presence. They don't get to have you. That's what I did and still do. Yes, I would agree. Some people overstay their welcome because they never gave you value. And those closest to you, supposedly, take a look at them, guys. And I don't want you to get anal retentive about this, but look at every relationship in your life and ask yourself the question, are they feeding into me? Or are they sucking out of me? And I can tell you, the friends that I have in my life, they're feeding into me because I'm feeding into them. It's a mutual expression of care and concern and love for one another, that I get as much out of friendships now as I put in. Whereas before and in other relationships, what I put in, I did not always get back. I would give, and then I would have sucked out of me even more. And after a while, that starts to work on you mentally and making you feel like, wow, I'm putting in all this effort. Why do I feel like crap? Like I should be having amazing relationships based on the effort that I'm putting in. So be mindful of that. Take stock in even family. Let's go there, guys. Family doesn't get a free pass. To Einertson, who was talking about abusive father, he doesn't get a free pass just because he's biological. You let that shit go. He's making you feel worthless by his abusive actions. It's okay, as Kira said, let that go. He lost the privilege of having you in his life. That's the way I feel about my dad. He lost the honor and the privilege of having an amazing human being to be in his life. Even when I became successful, you guys, started writing a few books that became international bestsellers, not once did he say he was proud of me. Not once did he feed into that I have worth. His silence continued the message that I got when I was a kid, that I was worthless. And that hurt, because here's my own father, my own flesh and blood, who you would think, wow, my son went and made something of himself. And you would think of all people in the world, that would be the one person who would find worthiness in you. And it didn't happen. And I had to dig deep and say, you know what? But I know that I'm not worthless. I know the value that I offer. I know the value I continue to offer. I was having a conversation about this just the other day with someone of, yes, there are moments where we all think, what's my purpose and what's my value in the world? But then when you really dig deep and think it through, you can say, yeah, I know it. And when you know it and it's in your heart, can't nobody take that away from you. A gratitude journal says, Locan, try to focus on positive in a gratitude journal helped a lot. Yeah, those things are great. Like I said, I don't struggle with this anymore. It was something I used to bad struggle with, but I've been doing a lot of internal work. And look, I think showing gratitude is a big key in knowing your worth. I articulated that at the beginning of this video when apparently you weren't here yet, Locan, but I said a lot of that being tried and true to who you are truly is a key to finding worth. Hello, Lori Del Norte bought a badge. Thank you for that. And there's a little badge thing down there if you guys want to support my work. Bulletproof says, I feel like people need to go through sad experiences in order to be good people. I would never cancel someone because I know how it feels. Well, I don't think a prerequisite to being good is to be run over by people and something bad happening. But that said, to your point, those of us who have gone through some adverse conditions in our life, bad experiences, as you put it, we do tend to find the good. Although, not always. I know people in my life where bad things happened to them and they went the other way. They went the revenge route. They totally wallow in the pity of their worthlessness. And they seek revenge. And they get ugly towards other people. And then that influences other people to then be ugly towards other people and other people and other people. It's why my message in everything that I do, guys, is okay, bad things happened, but you can change it in today's society, in today's life for yourself. You do not have to let that negative follow you around, define you for the rest of your life. There were many years that my trauma, when I didn't want to deal with it, it defined my life. I said this on an interview recently, that I literally lost all of my 20s, all of them, because I was so in trauma brain and didn't know it. That's the sad part. I was flailing in job after job. I was not happy. Things just weren't going well in my life. And it's when I ballooned up in weight, by the way. When I got out of college, I was around 300 pounds. And by the end of my 20s, going into my early 30s, I was over 400 pounds. And so that feeling of worthlessness can lead you to comfort yourself. Some people turn to drugs, alcohol, other addictions, but a lot of people turn to food. And I ate it relentlessly in my 20s. And I'm still paying the price at 50 for those bad decisions. But look, I don't lament that I survived. I don't lament that in the midst of that feeling worth, I'm glad I'm still here today. I'm glad I'm still able to have a voice, breath to breathe, things to share, and worth, value. Remind yourself of that always. Kira says, of course I have value. I never would have been sued for alimony if I was worthless to the same guy who made me feel so low for over a decade. Yeah. I can relate, Kira, as you well know. But you can view that as a negative, or you can say, you know what? I'm free. I'm able to go live my life now. And I'm no longer feeling worthless because of this person. And even if it costs you a little money, at least your freedom is back in your grasp again. So I am truly happy for you. Sharon says it's taken me years to learn exactly what you're speaking about today. A mother who was abusive in so many ways. Taken me a long time to get where I am today at 77. It just took its toll. And look, at your age, Sharon, you're around the age of my parents. You're a little bit older, actually. And I look at them and I see such brokenness in both of them. My dad had a very alcoholic, abusive father. My mom lost her mom when her mom was 50 years old. And then my mom was in several nasty marriages. So there's trauma there. And it's tough when you feel so little. And for you, it was acceptable when you were growing up. It was acceptable to parents kids to make them feel worthless. And I really hate that. I'm glad that there are things in today's society that puts a little more value on kids. I know my friend Brittany does this thing called gentle parenting with her kids. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't get anything close to gentle when it came to parenting. And that's why I'm hearing you say, Sharon, that you could have used a little more infusion of worthiness and less making you feel worthless. Sorry you went through that, but you are one amazing human being today. And I'm really glad you're here. All right. Sharon says, I now have 37 grandchildren who I know certainly know my worth. Oh, yeah. That's your worthiness crown there, my dear. 37 grandchildren. Woo! That's awesome. I love it. Thank you, Jeanette Welsh, for getting a badge. Appreciate that. Kira says it's not just in relationships. It's work teams and bosses. I'm faster to leave a bad team boss than a boyfriend husband. Yes. Yeah. Don't tolerate anybody that takes out of you or makes you feel less than. Can I tell you the ones that get me are the people who pretend like they know more than you. Now that is indirectly telling you you're worthless. And I have seen that so many times. And in the health and wellness space, it's notoriously bad. Especially for someone like myself who does not have the perfect body. It's assumed because of that I have no value to offer. And so people are always saying, well, I can help you. Yeah, I don't need help. Thanks. Well, I know a lot about keto. Oh, do you? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, what are your best-selling books on keto? What? You don't have one? So there's that as well. Yet another layer to this conversation. Bulletproof says most of those people who threw me away never really gave me anything and said I was always there for them. Guys, really analyze that. Who do you have in your life? And if they're not adding to you, I guarantee you they are sucking out of you. If they suck, then they suck. And you need to give them the boot. Food as a coping mechanism is big, says Bulletproof. Yes, I think more people do it than we want to admit. Hello, Keto and Deli. Iderson says, just to play devil's advocate, how do I know if my parent is abusive or if I'm ungrateful? See, if you have to ask yourself that question, it sounds like you're being gaslit. Well, you're just not grateful for the things, The best way to do is just escape from it. Get away from it for a period of time. Because if they are abusive and you escape, you take away their power. And when that happens, when you go be on your own, I want you to evaluate, how do you feel in the moment? Does anything change about you? And if the answer is yes, then you know whether you're just ungrateful or they're abusive. You'll know. You'll know right away. Wellness Wit says, I love how confidently vulnerable you are. That's how I roll, girl, as you well know. So I have lived some life, and I'm tired of people feeling timid about sharing their weaknesses. And if they can see an example of someone like myself being bold and confident, yes, talking about hard things, then maybe it'll give them that oomph to do it themselves. Wellness Wit says, yes, gentle parenting break those toxic generational cycles. Yes, always. Good stuff. Keto and Deli says, you always need to show your emotions. Yeah, and look, for us guys, that's usually taboo in culture. I'm not afraid to show emotion. You guys have seen me get emotional on camera that watch me regularly. It's a part of life. And there are no male emotions, female emotions. Emotions are emotions. And you're not gay if you're a guy and you want to cry. And you're not hard if you're a woman and you don't cry. It's just, we all express things differently. It's a shame the one metric used to judge health is weight. And yet people are taught to judge their progress just by the scale. Yeah. And look, the scale can make people feel worthless. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? I can't get the scale to move. I'm doing all these things. In fact, I recorded a podcast yesterday with a guy, and he was like, how do you handle doing all these things to try to move the needle in your weight, and it's just not working? He's like, I know you get shit online. I was like, that's putting it mildly. And I said, look, I know what I'm doing. And I know the things I'm doing are supposed to be moving the needle. And I'm not giving up hope on that eventually happening. I'm changing something up in my diet at the moment. Still very much carnivore based, by the way. But doing something different just to see if it changes things up. And so in due course, I will report that to you, but I'm in the midst of trying it. Don't want to report it unless it works or unless it's doing something that catches my attention. So stay tuned. If someone is using their power or control over you to manipulate you or to make decisions you would not otherwise make on your own, that is abuse. Very well said. Yes, Melissa. Exactly. And sometimes you don't even see the abuse until you're out of it and you get away from your abuser. And then you're like, holy crap, why am I so at peace suddenly? All that tension, you just live with it and you don't even know you have it. So, good morning. Emotions must be metabolized like food. Ooh. Get Melissa dropping all the bombs here today. I love it. Del Norte, love your walk and talks. Thank you. I try to bring a variety of topics that aren't always nutritional health related. I got lots of other stuff up in this cranium of mine. Emotions affect your physical health big time. Well, yeah, Bulletproof. Big time indeed. We try to make physical health and mental health two different things. They are intricately tied. If your mental health is off, your physical health is going to be off. And if your physical health is off, your mental health is going to be off. The two are not mutually exclusive. Iderson says, do you believe in vows of silence, whether it can be useful towards an abuser, at least? I'm doing that right now. I have not spoken to my dad in more than 2 years. I came back from sabbatical in March 1st, 2020, almost exactly 2 years ago. And first thing I did was start talking about my childhood trauma, because I've been doing a lot of work on myself on that. And somehow my dad caught wind of it. And after 12 years of not talking to my mom, they've been divorced since I was a little kid. He calls my mom, our son's spreading lies about me online. And my mom knew the truth. And she told him to go somewhere and hung up on him. And it was at that point I decided, if he can't even admit that he was abusive to me, at least admit to it. You don't even have to apologize for it. Just admit you did it. That's it. Just acknowledge the obvious. But what happens in families is, well, that was so long ago. Just let it go. Move on with your life. You're still worried about that. And that's disgusting, guys. Families do this all the time. Abuse happens in families. And there's real damage that's been done mentally and physically. And then they let time pass and they think time heals all wounds. That's a bullshit statement, by the way. Time does not heal all wounds. Time just means there's more time since the wound happened, but the wound's still there. So yeah, I had to cut off my dad completely. And unfortunately, when I did that, almost all the Moore side of the family cut me off. So there are ramifications to that. Now look, I've had this cockamamie idea to go back to my hometown where my dad lives and all my dad's family lives and attempt to see people. I don't know if I want to waste that trip. It's like 9 hours to get there. But it would be interesting to see who would see me. And if I tried to talk to my father, would he even see me? Or would he just not come to the door? I don't know. But it's been a long time to answer your question. And we haven't talked. And he hasn't even tried to reach out to me at all, which says a lot. Says a whole lot. And look, I don't think he realized that I would ever someday find my worth, find my value, speak up on what happened to me. I think he saw me in a very different light as a kid. He's like, what a little wuss kid this is. I hated his mom, and so I hate him. And that's the truth. He despised my mom, so it's not surprising he would despise me in the process. It's a shame, because at the end of the day, I was still his kid. And I was still worthy of his love and care and concern. And for whatever reason, he decided not to give those things to me. I really feel bad for him. At the end of the day, I think through it all. I feel bad for him because he went through his own trauma with his own dad. That doesn't excuse what he did to me, but it at least gave me a heart for, okay, he was hurting. He had my brother Kevin at 17, and then me at 21. Then I went to live with him when he was 35, I believe. And so relatively young still. And still not dealing with his anger from his own trauma. So it all makes sense now, all these years later, when you look back on that stuff. But in the midst of it, it doesn't make sense. All I know is that's my dad, and he's saying the most vile, ugly things to me. He's got an anger streak. I'm constantly in fear and walking on eggshells around him that he's going to beat me. And many days he would beat me, not just emotionally berate me, but physically put his hands on my body. I remember one time, and I was 15, 16. One time I did something he didn't like. And he said, pull your pants down. So I pulled down my shorts. He's like, no, all the way off. He made me take off my underwear and everything showing and hanging. And he had big old hands, would just rear back and just pow, pow, pow. And I mean, not just the butt, all up and down my back and my back of my legs, my hamstrings. I would literally, at the end of it, feel throbbing all over the backside of my body. And of course, I'm tearing everywhere. And I remember having trouble breathing. I went into the bathroom afterwards and it looked like I got mauled. And I did. I got mauled. And then I'd have to go to church the next day. Put on dress clothes and sit down, but it hurt to sit down, so I didn't want to sit down. I can tell you stories like that all day. In that moment, I felt worthless. In that moment, I thought of myself as a bad kid. I was not a bad kid. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I was not a bad kid. I had an honor roll. To this day, I still don't know how I made honor roll through all that abuse. Always look to who holds the power to know who the abuser is in the relationship. Yes, Melissa, spot on. Yes, that is so true. Bulletproof says few leaders have addressed mental health from the lockdowns. They must be looking for a pokey for depression. Yeah, I talked to Melissa on my podcast the other day. This is the next pandemic. We have a mental health crisis that as of right this moment, we have no plan for. We have no plan of action to help people deal. And look, it's not over. Just because the pandemonium with 9/11 DIVOC and all the talk about the hokey pokey and boasters and all the things, I'm talking very heavily in code right now, and now it's turning to what's happening in the other part of the world right now that could turn into a worldwide event. Everybody's on edge. Everybody has mental issues. Some people are handling it well, and many people are not handling it well at all. And it's only going to get worse. I think people need kind of a calmness to get their brains to kind of go, okay, this is too much too fast. You know what this reminds me of? I was not alive yet, but when I was in college, I took one whole class. It was a cultural, geopolitical kind of class, all on the 1960s. You want to talk about a decade that was effed? It was the 1960s. with all the things that happened, all the assassinations that happened, all the cultural changes with Woodstock that happened, the civil rights movement happened. I mean, there are so many things that happened in the 1960s. I think someday they're going to look back on this little period of time, which we're not out of yet. Started in 2020, but it could go indefinitely to some period of time where history will go, okay, look at that period of time, how the world changed dramatically. I feel like we're kind of back in a 1960s kind of time in history right now. Mind your mental health right now because it's so important. Accountability feels like an attack when you aren't ready to admit your behavior is harming others. Ooh. Oh, I'm so glad you're here today, Melissa. Thank you for that. Yes, it does. Because if you don't think you've done anything wrong and someone's trying to hold you accountable, you will feel attacked. I've had to learn that one the hard way personally. Admit things about myself, belief systems, ways of thinking that just had always been there, and I never was challenged on it. So then when somebody challenges, you go, whoa, what? You feel attacked. So that's so true. Bulletproof says, visiting your father would really be something. Your story is a sad one. I'm sorry you've gone through that, but you're helping so many people now. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if I'm actually going to do it. I've just had a lot of heavy thoughts about it lately to go back there. And look, I don't know how he's going to respond. I know as of a few years back, his mental faculties were not all that great. And he was going downhill fast in that way. So I don't even know what's happening with that. I did hear through Facebook a few months ago that he was in the hospital for something. It was very vague. I didn't get many details, but he had to go to the hospital for something. But that's the only news I've heard about him since I went silent. Have you ever wanted to harm your dad or worse? And if so, how did you not let your dark side win? Well, I don't think I'm capable of harming another human, or as you're insinuating, killing another human. I couldn't do it. Even if I wanted to, even the person I loathe the most, I don't see him through that prism anymore. I see him as a human being that's hurt, that's never dealt with his own hurt. So you got to shift your thinking about those people that you're having those thoughts about. It's very easy to see what they've done to you, but it's another thing and another level of strength to think, oh, what was done to them? And it gives you empathy for them. Yes, they're your abuser. Yes, a lot of parts of your life have not been great because of them. But what led them to do it? And when you dig deeper into that, it gives you a whole nother perspective. Jacob says, sorry, thank you for that. Melissa said the punishment was epidemic of the boomer generation. Yes. That generation, they learned corporal punishment. But they took corporal punishment and then they used the Bible on top of it. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Heard that one a lot growing up. And of course the rod was any way they wanted to punish you. So in my dad's case, physically punching me, beating me, throwing me up against the walls. That apparently was what Jesus thought was right. So a lot of gaslighting. Looks beautiful there. It is beautiful. It's like in the low 60s today. This is definitely transitioning into spring. in the South. Pretty soon there's going to be all this green gunk in the air. I don't usually have problems with allergies, but sometimes it gets so thick that it's almost impossible not to have a need for Flonase. So there's so much beauty when someone says, wow, I was wrong, I'm sorry. Yes, it's all I've ever wanted, Melissa. Just admit that you did something bad, that you were wrong, and that you're sincerely sorry. Powerful words, but I would argue rarely spoken words. There will come a time, says Mamara 3 or Mamara 6, excuse me. Yes, payday someday is the way the saying goes. And look, I mean no ill will towards my abuser or anyone, but it's a fact. We have to stop the abuse. And look, I'm almost back home, so I'm going to finish with this. If I'm ever able to have kids someday, the good news for me and my wife someday is I've broken the cycle. No longer do I have to fear that my kids are going to get my wrath, just as my dad had wrath on me and his dad had wrath on him. The buck stops right here. And again, if I'm able to have kids, I know that verifiably, that they will not have to go through the same trauma that I did. Bulletproof says sometimes when you admit you're wrong and that you're sorry, the other person refuses to forgive. Hey, that's on them at that point. Your job is to forgive and to admit that you were wrong. If the other person refuses, that's something they need to work on. So, yes, you're right, they do, but that doesn't negate the action of what you did do. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming along on this walk and talk. This was a little bit of a heavy one at times, but I feel like we need to talk about these kind of issues. And today's feeling worthy when you feel worthless. I feel like there's so many people walking around feeling absolutely worthless. And I'm here to tell you, you are full of so much value, so much love, so much worth, more than you even realize. And I urge you to share this video. It's on Instagram. I'll have it up on YouTube, Facebook. Share it far and wide, because I feel like people need hope right now. They need to know that they have value in this world and that they're not to be discarded. All right, guys, I'm almost home. I'm like 3 minutes from my house now, so I'm gonna pop off of here for now. Thanks so much for watching this walk and talk.